Give me 17 minutes and I'll show you why you're still stuck. And the rest of our time will show you how to get unstuck. Deal? Write this down. You are not stuck. You are misaligned. Say it out loud. Not stuck, misaligned. I came to deliver you from the religion of busy. Busy is not a badge. It's often disobedience. What did I say? Say it out loud. Busy is not a badge. It's often disobedience. Some of you have been worshiping your calendar like it's a god, but it's only a mirror telling you what you obey. Success is not a pursuit. Success is a result of obedience to laws. Please write that down and tweet it to somebody. Hashtag, laws make life predictable. You don't break laws, laws break you. If you jump off a building and say, I don't believe in gravity, gravity will introduce itself on the way down. In the same way, there is a law called purpose. Purpose is not a feeling, not a wish, not a New Year's resolution. Purpose is the governing law of your design. In other words, your design dictates your function, and your function dictates your focus. If your focus is not governed by purpose, your activity becomes rebellion wrapped in productivity. Let me give you scripture, because I don't teach opinion, I teach principles. Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans, not guesses. Which means purpose existed before your schedule did. Joshua 1-8 calls the word a book of law, not a book of suggestions. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. Then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Notice, prosperity and success are then words. When? When you align with law, reverse the verse and you get the truth also. Neglect the law and you predict your frustration. Write that down. Let me confront you like a good father. The reason you are exhausted is not because you are lazy, it's because you are mismanaged by fear and tradition. Jesus looked at religious people in Matthew 15:3 and said, why do you transgress the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition? In other words, you are obeying human rules while violating divine law. Busy is often obedience to human rules. Purpose is obedience to governing law. Tweet that. Picture a car with perfect horsepower but wheels out of alignment. It will burn fuel, shake violently, and drift off the road while the engine screams, I'm working. That's many of you. High energy, low effectiveness, motion without mission. Write this down. Motion without mission is commotion. What did I say? Say it back to me. In 17 minutes, I want to recalibrate your wheels, your mind, your mouth, your minutes, so the power God gave you actually moves you forward. Here's the diagnostic. Time is the currency of purpose. Purpose is the budget of time. If time is leaking everywhere, purpose is not in charge. You don't need more hours. You need a higher authority over the hours you have. Today we stop asking, how busy am I? And start asking, what law am I obeying with this hour? When purpose governs your time, success becomes predictable, peace returns, and your calendar stops bullying you. Let's begin the alignment. Now let's define our terms, because confusion is the mother of mismanagement. Write this down and say it with me. Busy is activity driven by demands. Purpose is assignment driven by design. Again, busy is the pressure of requests. Purpose is the pull of original intent. One more time for the people in the back. Busy is what others need from you. Purpose is what God built into you. Proverbs 19:21 says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Plans are busy. Purpose prevails. Tweet that. Here is the core question that runs your life like a governor on an engine. Are you busy or are you obedient? And how can you tell? Write the test. Busy asks, what do they expect? Obedience asks, what did he assign? Busy is motion. Obedience is alignment. In other words, movement is not progress. Obedience is progress. Write that down and send it to somebody right now. Hashtag, laws make life predictable. Let me give you a picture. A car can be moving downhill with no fuel. That's motion. Gravity will gladly give you speed for a while, but that car is not functioning according to design because the engine is not engaged with its proper fuel. That's busy. Lots of movement. Wrong mechanism. Purpose is when the engine runs by the law. It was made for combustion in the cylinder, ignition in sequence, design, obey. The same here that made you look fast becomes irrelevant when the engine is right, because you can go up or down on demand. Write this down. When purpose powers you, terrain stops threatening you. Jesus settled this argument in a living room. Martha, Martha, he said, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Luke 10:41-42. Many things, that's busy. One thing necessary, that's purpose. Mary chose obedience to the assignment of that moment. Sit, listen, receive. The Lord called it better. Hear me. God does not reward many things. He rewards the right thing. Joshua 1-8 didn't say do everything. It said observe to do, and then you make your way prosperous. That's law language. Write this down. Purpose is not an intention. It's a law of design that turns activity into progress. Ephesians 2:10 declares, we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Prepared beforehand means assignment precedes agenda. In other words, there is a lane built for you before you ever check your inbox. When you walk in that lane, motion becomes multiplication. Time becomes a servant. You don't break design. Design breaks you. That's why misalignment feels like fatigue. So ask the governor question all day long. Who authorized this activity, pressure, or purpose? Does this task obey my design or just quiet someone's anxiety? Is my engine engaged or am I coasting downhill? The answer will expose busy and enthrone obedience. And when obedience sits on the throne, progress stops being an accident and becomes your normal. Now write this down and shout it back to me. Movement is not progress. Obedience is progress. Write this down. There's a difference between laws and rules. Laws are built in. Rules are built out. Laws never adjust to you. You adjust to laws. Rules change when a committee meets. Tweet that. And here the maxim I have taught for years. You don't break laws. Laws break you. If you jump from a building, gravity doesn't argue with your personality test. It prosecutes you. That's why I call purpose a law, because it is embedded in your design. Romans 8:2 calls it the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. Not the suggestion, the law. Jesus confronted this exact confusion. He said, why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition? Matthew 15:3. Mark adds, you leave the commandment of God and hold to the tradition of men. Mark 7:8. Tradition is a rule. Commandment is a law. Matthew 5:19 goes further. Whoever practices and teaches these commandments will be called great. Practice law, become great. Reverse the verse and it still works. Neglect law, become least. Success and failure are predictable because laws make life predictable. Write that down. Now, culture claps for rule keepers. If you reply to emails in 3 minutes, they give you a badge. If your calendar looks like a losing game of Tetris, they call you a team player. If you sit in 12 meetings with no decisions, they applaud your presence. Those are traditions, not laws. The applause is addictive because it feels like approval, but it is often payment for disobedience. Galatians 1:10 asks, am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? If your phone is your pastor, you will always be busy. Some of you need to tithe your notifications. Oh dear, talk to the hand if you must, but write it down. Here is the trap. Rules create urgency. Laws create importance. Urgency screams, importance governs. Urgency says, answer now or I'll be disappointed. Law says, do first what you were born to do. The Sabbath story proves the hierarchy. Jesus healed on the Sabbath and said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Mark 2:27. In other words, the rule serves the law of life and love. The law does not bow to the rule. So say this out loud. If a rule violates a law, what do? You break the rule for the sake of the law. Say it again. If a rule violates a law, you break the rule for the sake of the law. So what does this look like tomorrow morning? You may break the rule of instant replies to keep the law of focused creation. You may break the rule of being in every meeting to keep the law of delivering your assignment. You may break the rule of pleasing everyone to keep the law of pleasing the one who sent you. Priority is purpose put in order, and order is how law governs time. Busy is often obedience to human rules. Purpose is obedience to governing law. When law governs, your yes gets sharper, your no gets holier, and your results stop being random. Let me diagnose the symptom you've been misnaming. You keep saying, I feel stuck. Write this down. Stuckness is a verdict, not a mystery. When you live by demands, your calendar becomes a courtroom. Every ding is a subpoena. Every meeting is a hearing. Your to-do list turns into exhibits A through Z. And at 10 p.m., you sit before the bench of comparison and hear the gavel. Guilty of not enough. Oh dear. Am I talking to your inbox yet? Romans 8:1 says, there is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. Condemnation follows the walk you choose. When you walk after pressure, the flesh, of people's expectations, you invite a legal atmosphere of guilt. When you walk after purpose, the law of the Spirit, you invite freedom. Write that down. In that courtroom, approval plays the prosecutor. Tradition sits on the jury. Fear is the stenographer recording every yes you never meant. The evidence presented is brutal. Unfinished projects, double-booked hours, promises you made to look good, and outcomes you can't measure. The verdict is predictable because laws make life predictable. If you obey approval-driven rules, you predict discontent. If you obey purpose-driven law, you predict progress. Tweet that to somebody. Your feelings are not random. They are receipts. Let me give you the busy symptoms so you can stop pretending it's spiritual warfare when it's actually scheduled warfare. Write these down. Chronic hurry, late to yourself, even when you're on time for them. Resentment rising because your agreements don't match your assignment. Scattered goals, 5 priorities, it's 4 too many. No measurable completion. You worked all day yet can't name 3 finished outcomes. Constant reacting. You live in the emergency room of other people's poor planning. Little deep work, your best brain is sold to the loudest bell. Little peace, you fall asleep with noise in your chest. What did I say? Little peace is not a demon, it's a diagnosis. Now hear this identity statement and don't forget it. A person out of position is tormented. I've said it for years. A demon is simply a person out of position. A fish on the beach is not wicked, it's misplaced. A seed on tile is not rebellious, it's mispositioned. Jonah ran from assignment and the seed protested. Jonah, misalignment, makes the environment feel hostile. But when the shepherd restores your soul to the right path, he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Psalm 23. Position produces peace. Write that down. So let's do a mini audit right now. Take your pen. Write down the top 5 things stealing your best hours. Now circle the ones you would stop if nobody applauded you. Those circles are your rules, traditions you are serving for approval. Next to each one, write this question. What law of my design does this violate? Then ask, what one assignment would, if completed this week, make these circles irrelevant? Joshua 1-8 said, observe to do, not observe to attend. In other words, God rewards completion, not mere participation. Say this out loud. My calendar is not my judge. Purpose is my law. Here is the good news. Court is adjourned when purpose takes the bench. The same schedule that condemned you becomes evidence for you when you order it by assignment. You will feel momentum the moment you decide to obey, design over demand. Stuckness is often the emotional and practical consequence of living by approval-driven rules instead of purpose-driven law. Today we enter a plea of not guilty by reason of alignment, and we bring your time under the government of purpose. Write it down and get ready for measurable progress. Now let me unveil the law that has been governing you, whether you knew it or not. Write this down and say it back to me. Design determines function, and function determines focus. In other words, what you were made for dictates what you should do, and what you must do dictates what you should ignore. That is why you are exhausted when you violate design. You are asking your life to do what it was never shaped to do. Ephesians 2:10 says, you are his workmanship crafted, not random, created for good works prepared beforehand. Prepared beforehand means design precedes duty. Duty then produces direction. That's focus. God embedded this revelation in creation so no one can miss it. Fish were designed for water. When a fish leaves water, no angel needs to smite it. The law of design prosecutes it. Birds were designed for air. Seeds were designed for soil. A seed on tile is not wicked. It is misused. That is why it never produces a forest, wrong environment, wrong result. Write that down. The liver was designed to detoxify, not to negotiate with poison every night. You don't have to pray for cirrhosis. The judgment is built into the violation. You don't break laws. Laws break you. Genesis 1 shows God placing everything in the environment. Its design demands waters swarmed with fish, skies filled with birds. The place follows the purpose. Now bring that same law to your minutes. Time is not your enemy. Misuse is your enemy. Time is a multiplier. It multiplies whatever you aim it at. Aim your hours at distraction, and time compounds regret. Aim your hours at assignment, and time compounds results. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. Notice, time to every purpose. Time obeys purpose. It does not obey your panic. The problem is not time management, it's purpose management. Write that down and tweet it. Hashtag purpose governs time. Focus is not a personality trait. Focus is a legal consequence of function. When you know your function, your focus becomes obvious. When function is vague, everything feels urgent. That's why Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Reverse the verse and it still preaches. Where there is vision, clear purpose, people discipline themselves. Vision produces focus the way design produces function. Mary had focus in Luke 10 because she recognized her function in that moment, received from the Master. Martha multiplied motion because she misread her function. Jesus called Mary's choice better law language again. So here is your actionable revelation. Begin every day by asking, what was I designed to produce today? Not what is everyone demanding. What is my function in this season? Then put your time where your design demands. If your design is architect, don't spend your best brain hours as a receptionist for other people's emergencies. If your design is teacher, use your mornings to develop clarity, not to scroll confusion. James 1-5 says, ask for wisdom. Wisdom is knowing the right application of knowledge, what to do with your design. When you obey design, your life works less and produces more. When you ignore design, your life works harder and produces less. Choose the law. Obey the design. Let function give birth to focus. And let purpose govern your time until success becomes your predictable normal. Reverse the verse with me. Joshua 1-8 says, this book of the law shall not depart from your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. Then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Write this down. Observe to do produces then. Obedience produces predictable outcomes. Now reverse the verse, it still works. Ignore the law, neglect to do, and you will make your way difficult, and you will have predictable frustration. Say it out loud. Success is predictable. Failure is predictable. What makes it predictable? Laws. Tweet that now. Hashtag laws make life predictable. Galatians 6-7 backs me up. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. That is not a devotional thought. That is jurisprudence. Sow scattered, reap scattered. Sow purpose, reap progress. Write this down. Results are receipts. What did I say? Results are receipts. Your outcomes are not random. They are invoices stamped, paid by your obedience, or insufficient funds by your neglect. If you sow your best brain into notifications, you will reap delay. If you sow your mornings into assignment, you will reap momentum. If you sow integrity into money, you will reap margin. If you sow impulse and comparison, you will reap debt. This is not condemnation. This is clarity. Laws are merciful because they are consistent. You always know what to expect. Now let me confront our religious reflex with love. Prayer is powerful. I pray more than you think. But prayer cannot replace law keeping. Write it down. Prosperity doesn't come by prayer. It comes by keeping laws. Say it back to me. What did I say? Prayer positions you to hear the law. Obedience activates the result. James 1:22 says, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. In other words, you can attend every prayer meeting and still be broke, tired, and stuck if you violate the laws of purpose, priority, diligence, and stewardship. Proverbs 10:4 states it cold. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Reverse the verse, undisciplined time makes predictable lack. Disciplined time makes predictable progress. Deuteronomy 28:2 declares, all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you if you will hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord. Reverse the verse and learn the pattern. If you refuse to hearken, if you ignore purpose laws, then something else overtakes you. Friction, stagnation, scatter. The curse is not lightning from heaven. It is the built-in consequence of violation. Step off a roof, gravity will not counsel you, it will collect. Step out of your assignment, time will not sympathize, it will scatter your harvest. Write this down. Stuckness is predictable when purpose laws are ignored. So here is the mercy of predictability. You can audit your life and adjust. Ask these three questions tonight. What law am I disobeying with my hours? What assignment am I delaying that is billing me interest? What priority is out of order that is making everything feel urgent? Success is predictable. Failure is predictable. What makes it predictable? Laws. Reverse the verse. Reclaim your time and let your results become the receipt of your renewed obedience. Let me expose the mask. Because some of you are hiding behind productivity like it's a choir robe. Write this down. Busyness can be fear in motion, fear of choosing, fear of failing, fear of disappointing people. Proverbs 29:25 says, the fear of man brings a snare. A snare is a trap you walk into while moving. Hear me. You can run and still be trapped. That's why you're exhausted. You are sprinting in a net called approval. Here's the hidden trade, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Busy makes you feel valuable without requiring you to be effective. It gives you identity without impact. You feel needed, but you are not necessary to your own assignment. Oh dear. Tweet that to yourself. You can be needed and still be wasted. You can be applauded and still be empty. John 12:43 exposes the sickness. They love the praise of men more than the praise of God. Approval is a cheap drug. Purpose is a holy demand. Which one is governing you? Write this down and say it back to me. Busy is easy. Purpose is demanding. Busy is loud. Purpose is clear. What did I say? Say it out loud until your fear gets offended. Busy is easy because it lets you postpone courage. Purpose is demanding because it forces a decision. Busy is loud, bells, dings, meetings, hurry. Purpose is clear. There's one assignment done well according to design. Jesus gave us the model for courage. In Mark 1, the crowds begged him to stay, but he said, let us go to the next towns that I may preach there also, for that is why I came. That's focused talking. Popular or purposeful? He chose purpose over popularity. Saul failed this test. In 1 Samuel 15:24, he confessed, I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Fear created busyness, looks like obedience to everybody else, but is rebellion to your assignment. And the man with one talent in Matthew 25 told on all of us, I was afraid and hid your talent. He wasn't idle, he dug, he buried, he maintained. But fear dressed up as activity still ended in wicked and slothful servant. Write it down. Activity is not immunity from judgment. Laws don't grade on busyness. Let me confront you like a father. The reason you keep adding tasks is because choosing feels like dying. Commitment closes doors, and your insecurity loves open doors. But open doors with no direction is just a hallway to nowhere. Courage is the willingness to disappoint the wrong people to obey the right purpose. If you are scared to say no, you have already said no to your assignment. Galatians 1:10 asks, am I trying to please man or God? Answer it every morning. So here is your deliverance path. Name the fear that fuels your hurry. Say it out loud and shame it. Then choose the one assignment your design demands today and put your best hours on it. Everything else is trivia until that is done. Joshua 1-9 says, be strong and courageous. Strength is for lifting. Courage is for choosing. Stop wearing busy like a uniform. Wear assignment like armor. Busy is easy. Purpose is demanding. Busy is loud. Purpose is clear. Obey courage and watch fear lose its job. Now let me put a tool in your hand so sharp it will circumcise your calendar. Write this down and say it with me. Obedience has a test. Matthew 6:24 says, no man can serve two masters. That means your schedule always betrays your Lord. So here are 3 questions that reveal your true master. Put your pen ready. What did I say? 3 questions. Question 1, source. Who assigned this purpose or pressure? Write it down. If it's pressure, it will always be urgent. If it's purpose, it will be important. Urgency screams. Importance governs. Pressure says, if you don't do this now, we'll be disappointed. Purpose says, do first what you were born to do. Luke 10 already proved it, many things, versus one thing necessary. Ask this before you answer emails, accept meetings, or say yes to favors. Who sent this? If God's law of design didn't authorize it, it's a trespasser. Say this out loud. If purpose didn't assign it, pressure can't demand it. Question 2, fruit. What problem does this solve and for whom? Success begins with solving a problem. Tweet that. Proverbs 18:16 says, a man's gift makes room for him. How? By solving room-making problems. Joseph rose because he solved Pharaoh's crisis. Daniel rose because he solved Nebuchadnezzar's mystery. Influence is the reward for visible solutions. So ask the fruit question every time. What problem is this assignment built to solve, and who is the beneficiary? If you cannot name the problem and the person, you are probably entertaining activity rather than executing assignment. Write this down. If there is no clear problem, there will be no clear progress. What did I say? Results are receipts. Problems solved are line items. Question 3, cost. What must I stop to say yes? Luke 14:28 asks, which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost? Every yes is a no. Purpose requires subtraction before multiplication. If you cannot name what dies, your yes is not alive. In other words, priority is purpose put in order, and order is impossible without sacrifice. 1 Corinthians 14:40 says, let all things be done decently and in order. Order demands you drop something. Write this down. A holy yes needs a holy no to protect it. If you are afraid to cancel a lesser rule, you cannot keep the governing law. Now hear the maxim that will save you from 1,000 apologies. If you can't name the assignment, the problem it solves, and the sacrifice it requires, it's probably busy, not purpose. Say it back to me. That is your filter for the week. Micro CTA, write these 3 questions on a card. Use them before you accept anything this week. Hold them up to every request like a badge. Source, purpose, or pressure. Fruit, what problem and for whom? Cost, what must stop for this yes to live? Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord. That unto is your master test. Run these 3 questions and your unto will be clear. Your time will be governed and your progress will be measurable. Write this down. Time doesn't need motivation. Time needs government. Tweet that. Time will pass whether you clap for it or not, but it will only produce what you govern it to produce. Ephesians 5:15-16 says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time. Redeeming means buying time back from slavery. From whom? From demands, from drift, from distraction. How do you redeem it? By giving it a government called purpose. And the instrument of that government is priority. Say this out loud. If purpose is the law, what is priority? Purpose put in order. Say it again. If purpose is the law, what is priority? Purpose put in order. Let me separate 2 words that have been married but shouldn't share a bed. Efficiency and effectiveness. Write this down. Efficiency does things right. Effectiveness does the right things. Many of you are world-class efficient at irrelevancies. You can answer emails like a ninja and still fail your assignment. In other words, you can be speedily wrong. Philippians 3:13 gives us the law language of effectiveness. This one thing I do. Not these many things I sample. This one thing I do. Priority is how you turn one thing into a calendar. Here's the structure. Simple, brutal, holy. Best hours to purpose, work first. Everything else competes for leftovers, not leadership. What did I say? Best hours first. Not when you're tired, not when your brain is a puddle. Nehemiah 6:3 is your script. I am doing a great work and cannot come down. When? During your best hours. If your best brain is 8:11 a.m., then 8:11 belongs to assignment, not to emergencies produced by other people's mismanagement. Matthew 6:33 gives you the principle. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. First is not a word. First is a time slot. Write that down. Jesus modeled this. Mark 1:35 says, very early in the morning, he went out to a solitary place, and there he prayed. Why early? Priority. He set government over his day before the crowds could vote. Do the same. Appoint your mornings as parliament for purpose. Pass your assignment into law before the notifications assemble their riot. Your calendar is not a diary, it's legislation. Every block either legalizes your purpose or licenses your drift. Let me give you a picture. The sun doesn't chase the planets. The planets orbit the sun because mass governs motion. Purpose is the sun. Priority is the orbit. When purpose governs, tasks take their rightful distance and speed. When purpose abdicates, everything flies into chaos. Write this down. Priority is obedience with a clock on it. If it's not on the calendar, it is not your priority, it is your fantasy. So here is your realignment order. Tithe your first and best hours to your assignment daily. Guard them like a law, not a suggestion. Collapse secondary tasks into the margins after the work that defines your destiny. Efficiency can wait. Effectiveness must lead. Time changes when purpose governs priority is the mechanism of obedience. Say it back to me. And tomorrow morning, prove you believe it by giving your crown hours to the king's assignment in you. Write this down. Laws don't work because you admire them. They work because you practice them. So I'm giving you a 17-minute law-keeping ritual that moves you from reaction to assignment every morning. Not a suggestion, a practice. Psalm 90:12 says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Numbering is measurement. Set a timer, 17 minutes. 5, 7, 5. Say it out loud. 5, 7, 5. First 5 minutes, purpose review. This is the court convening and the law taking the bench. Ask and answer 3 prompts with a pen. Number 1, what am I created to solve? Your gift is a problem solver. Name the problem. Number 2, what is my main outcome this season? Not 10, not 5, one outcome that, if achieved, would make other tasks simpler or unnecessary. Number 3, what is the next faithful step? Not the grand plan, the next obedient action that honors design. Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision, make it plain. Plain means measurable. Don't pray vague, write precise. Tweet that. Next 7 minutes, planning in order. Priority is purpose put in order. So order your day. Choose one priority. Block your crown hours when your brain is gold. Put it on the calendar, not in your feelings. Define the measurable finish line for that block. Draft page 1. Sketch the outline. Design 3 slides. Call 2 clients with offer in hand. If it can't be finished, it can't be focused. Then identify the one rule you will break to protect it. Maybe it's a tradition of instant replies. The rule of open door mornings. The habit of notification worship. Say this with me. Break a rule to keep the law. Proverbs 16:3 promises, commit your works to the Lord and your thoughts will be established. Commit means schedule. Establish means focused. Final 5 minutes. First action now. Don't let clarity sit. Make it law by motion. James 1:22 says, be doers of the word and not hearers only. So do something that creates momentum. Send the message that books the meeting. Outline the first paragraph. Create the project folder and title it. Make the call and ask for the decision. Set the calendar invite for your block and label it assignment, do not disturb. Nehemiah 6:3. I am doing a great work and cannot come down becomes your autoresponder. Write this down. Motion after clarity produces progress. What did I say? Motion after clarity produces progress. 17 minutes every morning before the world assembles its emergencies. 5 minutes to remember your law. 7 minutes to order your time. 5 minutes to obey immediately. Joshua 1-8 ends with observe to do. Then you will make your way prosperous. This ritual is the observe to do. Practice it for 7 days and watch what happens. Your hours will bend to your assignment. Small ritual, large harvest. From reactive busyness to obedient progress. Predictable, measurable, inevitable. Now, set the timer for tomorrow and legalize your purpose. Now let me hand you the master staircase so you never fall back into the cellar of busy. Write this down. Each P is a law of sustained success. It's not a list, it's a ladder. Busyness collapses the ladder. Purpose climbs it. Tweet that. Success becomes predictable when you obey the sequence. Purpose definition. Purpose is original intent. The Creator's why for your design that dictates what you must do and what you must ignore. Busy skips this first rung and calls everything important. Obedience starts here or doesn't start at all. Jeremiah 29-11 already told you plans exist. Your job is alignment, not invention. Perception definition. Perception is purpose-made sight. The law that trains your eyes to distinguish signal from noise. Without perception, you mislabel distractions as opportunities. With it, you discern the one assignment from 1,000 invitations. What did I say? See through purpose, or you will be ruled by pressure. Potential definition. Potential is stored capacity. What you can do that you haven't done yet, demanding cultivation under purpose. Busy flaunts skills for applause. Obedience develops capacity for assignment. Ephesians 2:10 says you are workmanship. There's more in you than you are using. Passion definition. Passion is the energy that flows when purpose ignites potential. It is fuel, not a steering wheel. Busy worships passion and burns out. Obedience governs passion by law, so it becomes fire in a fireplace, not a wildfire. 2 Timothy 1-6. Stir up the gift, not the hype. Principles definition. Principles are non-negotiable laws that protect purpose and channel passion into consistent behavior. Busy bends principles to save face. Obedience keeps principles to save destiny. You don't break laws, laws break you. Matthew 5 affirms law, not loopholes. Planning definition. Planning is purpose put on the calendar, sequence, resources, milestones, turning intention into itinerary. Busy calls planning control and baptizes chaos as faith. Obedience proves faith by plans. Proverbs 16:3. Commit means schedule. If it isn't planned, it isn't priority. People definition. People are strategic relationships assigned to your purpose, mentors, partners, and those you serve. Busy overuses people-pleasing and calls it ministry. Obedience selects covenant over crowd, alignment over applause. Influence is when others change their priorities for yours earned by solving problems. Persistence definition. Persistence is disciplined repetition of the right actions until resistance yields. Busy fragments at first pushback. Obedience keeps sowing the law of Galatians 6-7 until harvest dates arrive. Keep doing the right thing long enough and results must report. Perseverance definition. Perseverance is endurance through prolonged delay and adversity without abandoning assignment. Busy quits in the middle and blames seasons. Obedience endures like Hebrews 12:2. For the joy set before him endured the cross. Delay is a test, not a verdict. Prayer definition. Prayer is continuous communion that aligns your will, fuels your strength, and sustains obedience. It never substitutes for it. Busy uses prayer to bail out disobedience. Obedience uses prayer to maintain alignment. James 5:16 says, prayer avails much when the righteous are doing much. Now hear the audit. Busy skips purpose and planning, overuses people-pleasing, and baptizes it responsibility. Obedience ascends the ladder in order. Purpose clarifies. Perception focuses. Potential expands. Passion energizes. Principles stabilize. Planning sequences. People accelerate. Persistence compounds. Perseverance completes. And prayer sustains. Climb this daily, and your success becomes predictable because you are obeying the laws that make it so. What did I say? Busyness collapses the ladder, purpose climbs it. Now, put your foot on the first rung and don't come down. Write this down. Boundaries are not rudeness. They are legal fences protecting purpose. And hear this with love. Guilt is often the tax you pay for living under other people's rules. What did I say? Guilt is the tax of man-made rules. Jesus asked in Matthew 15:3, why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? That's law versus rule. Successful people always break the rules for the sake of the law. Say it out loud. Sometimes you must break a rule to keep the law. Tweet that. Every time you say yes to a rule, you may be saying no to a law. Let me put authority in your mouth so you can decline without apology. Use law language. Number 1, that's not my assignment. Say it. That's Acts 6:2, wisdom. When the apostle said, it is not right that we should give up preaching the word of God to serve tables. They love people, but they refuse misalignment. Assignment is a law. Serving every request is a rule. Number 2, I can't do that with excellence. Say it out loud. Colossians 3:23 commands, whatever you do it heartily, as unto the Lord. Excellence is a law in the kingdom. Mediocrity to keep appearances is a human rule. To offer what you cannot do well is to bring lame sacrifices. Malachi 1, God calls that dishonor. Number 3, I'm protecting a priority block. Say it again. Make it a habit. That is Nehemiah 6:3. I am doing a great work and cannot come down. Priority is the government of purpose. When you protect your crown hours, you are not being selfish, you are being lawful. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom. First is a law word. Now, relational wisdom, listen carefully. You are not rejecting people. You are rejecting misalignment. Romans 13:8 says, owe no one anything except to love. Love is a law. Availability to every request is a rule. Purpose keeps love clean and commitments honest. In other words, when you say no to what violates your design, you are saying a bigger yes to the people you are actually called to serve, including your family, your team, your audience, your God. Ephesians 4:15 says, speak the truth in love. So speak it with warmth and clarity. I value you. This just doesn't fit my assignment. You don't break relationships. You break the patterns that abuse them. Write these scripts down and train your tongue. That's not my assignment is jurisdiction. I can't do that. With excellence is integrity. I'm protecting a priority block is government. Use them before your calendar becomes a courtroom. You will feel a little guilt at first because the old rules are sending you an invoice. Pay it once and the bill stops coming. What did I say? Every time you say yes to a rule, you may be saying no to a law. Reverse it. Say no to the rule and watch purpose open the door you've been praying for. This week, practice 3 lawful no's. Inform your circle of your crown hours. Set an autoresponder that quotes Nehemiah 6:3. Bless people with clarity, not with false hope. You don't break laws. Laws break you. So break the rules that break you. Saying no is not selfish when it protects purpose. Sometimes you must break a rule to keep the law. Now open your mouth with authority, guard your assignment, and let your progress become the predictable fruit of obedience. What do we learn? Say it back to me. Busy is often disobedience, dressed in applause. Purpose is a governing law that makes success predictable. You don't break laws, laws break you. Joshua 1:8 told us the formula, observe to do. Then you will make your way prosperous. Reverse the verse, and it still works, neglect to do, and you will make your way difficult. Galatians 6:7, standard legal. Whatever a man sows, that he also shall reap. Write this down. Results are receipts. Your calendar is a courtroom, and your outcomes are the verdict. In other words, busyness is motion without obedience. Purpose is obedience that converts motion into measurable progress. I commission an identity shift tonight. From follower of demands to leader of assignment. From noisy activity to measurable completion. From scattered to governed. Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renew your mind with law language. You are not a volunteer to everybody's urgency. You are a steward of the king's design. 1 Peter 2:9 calls you royal. Royalty doesn't live by rumor, it lives by decree. So decree your day by purpose. I met a young woman, let's call her Dana, who wore busy like a medal. Emails at midnight, meetings by the minute, no fruit. We installed purpose as her governor. 1 assignment, crown hours guarded, 3 questions before every yes, and in 90 days she had a finished product, a paying client, and peace in her bones. Same hours, new law. That's what obedience does. It makes life predictable. Now here are your next steps. Concrete, simple, lawful. Write this down. Number 1, do the 1 7-minute ritual for 7 straight days. 5 minutes to remember your law. 7 to order your time. 5 to do the first action now. Psalm 90:12, number your days. Set a timer. Practice the law. Number 2, apply the 3 obedience questions to every request before you accept it. Who assigned this purpose or pressure? What problem does this solve? And for whom? What must I stop for this yes to live? If you cannot answer all 3, it's probably busy, not purpose. Number 3, schedule 1 protected purpose block before this week begins your crown hours. Label it assignment do not disturb and put Nehemiah 6:3 inches the description. I am doing a great work and cannot come down. Matthew 6. 33, seek first is not a motto, it is a time slot. Put first in place. This is your charge. Stop wearing busy. Start wearing assignment. John 15:8 says, by this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit. Fruit is measurable completion. So lift your voice and seal this with faith. Write this down, say it out loud, and text somebody. Busy is not my badge, purpose is my law. Again, busy is not my badge, purpose is my law. I bless your mornings with government, your hands with diligence, your heart with courage. Your breakthrough is not more hustle, it's obedience. As you align with purpose, may Deuteronomy 28:2 overtake you blessings, chasing you because you hearken diligently. Go now, govern your time, and let your life become predictably fruitful. Amen.